Tonight we are entering the month of Av, Zodiac of Leo, and a lot about this month I wrote in my book about the Zodiac, astrology, Jewish light. One can get it in my site, glazerson.com, glazersonbooks.com, Amazon. Very important book, and it clearly shows through the Hebrew letters with which the world was created what is the meaning of this month, of each month, the zodiac, the element of the month, many other things I just will mention. So what we see really in the book, as we say, the month of Leo, and as I mentioned in the other lectures about the month, that we base our talks, our lectures, on the Book of Formation. My book also is based on the Book of Formation, as the Book of Formation was the book with which God created the world. All the letters are there, connected with elements, with many other important things which are part of creation. Very difficult book, definitely. Yeah, commentaries of Gaon and others, but since it's difficult to understand it, so one of my chapters in my book is really about Leo, the zodiac Leo, and then I explained according to the Book of Formation, as we said, mainly, and other books definitely which are based on it. What is the meaning of this month? What is the importance of this month? What is really the duty, the destiny of this month? What a Jew really should do on this month? So let us start with the Book of Formation words, which says the following. The month of Av was formed by the letter Tet. Every month, every zodiac, as we mentioned in other lectures, was created with letters, connected with letters. And its nature, what is the nature, is hearing. Every month also have like attribute, like we saw in Tammuz, Cancer is sight. And Leo afterwards is hearing, so sight and hearing, very important senses. And already we said, "Lo tatu achel vavchem achei einechem," don't go astray after your eyes, after your sight. Be careful what you are hearing. There are a lot of things are connected with sight and with hearing. And these exactly are these 2 months, the month of Tammuz, Zodiac Cancer, and this month, Leo. So both of them have these 2 characters, sight and hearing, which is very, very sensitive nature in man. So this is also the explanation, according to the Vilna Gaon, in the Book of Formation, why the spies, who, as we know, went for 40 days, starting for the end of Sivan, going into the month of Tammuz, of Cancer, and then, after 10 days in Av, together 40 days, and those days of Av, then they came back on the 9th of Av, and those is really the days, the 40 days, where they were going around the land and brought a false report. Now the Vilna Gaon says, why was so, unfortunately, in the university easy, but was so dangerous this time? So he says, because the month of Cancer has the nature, the character of sight, and sight is very sensitive. especially if a man have interest, so he will see what suits him to see. And this is exactly what happened with the spies. They saw things happening in Israel and they interpreted it in the wrong way. They saw funerals, a lot of funerals, which really God did for their good. So that the people will be busy with funerals, not seeing that there are strangers around. But they, because they were interested to be in that desert, not to go to Israel, either because they enjoy the manna, the very nice, easy life there. Also, as the Kabbalah says, they knew that as presidents, as princes now, they will not be in Israel, because in Israel they will look for others, elected. Others will be elected. So they wanted to be princes. So it was the ulterior motive that they wanted to stay in the desert, and therefore they saw things in a way that will suit them. So this funeral, which really was for their good, interpret, no, Israel is a land that people are dying one after the other, heart attacks. So, right, this is exactly what the Vilna Gaon says happened because most of the time the event was a time of cancer, where his character is sight, and this was a stumble. Then they enter the months of Leo, still carrying on, going up till the 9th of Av. And the 9th of Av they came back. And they brought the report about the land and Israel, the Jews heard about it, they were crying, they were worried. This is terrible land. And God said to them, I promise you a good land. And you, unfortunately, lost your faith in God, what I told you. You listened to the spies, and you accepted what they said, and you were crying. Yes, they were crying, as the Torah says, that the people cried, and God told them, you are crying for nothing now, because I told you that you don't have to worry. In Israel, no problems, everything, wonderful land. But you did not. So God said to them, because of this you will be crying all over Israel, but not for nothing, for something. And in fact, it's interesting, there's a French historian who made all research on the 9th of Av, and he found out that in 9th of Av, mainly his research was the 9th of Av, he says in 9th of Av, Jews went through more than 100 troubles. He brings a famous one. First temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av. Second one, Beitar was destroyed. Expulsion of Spain, 1942 also. And the expulsion of York in England. The First World War brought up to 9th of Av. The final solution, Germany, was also the first thing to Auschwitz or to other camps that came also this time, and even the expulsion of Gush Katif, to be a 9th of Av, but somehow they wrote it to the 10th. So fighting, and he bring many, many others. And he said this, in Anjou, he said, for me, the clear proof that there is a God. How can we, that so many troubles Jews will go through the 9th of Av? And as we say, the purpose of the troubles, Holocaust, all the strategies that Jews went through to strengthen their faith in God, to realize that all the problems that they went through, all the troubles, is because of their sins, of the spies. Even the spies, the sins of the spies, lack of faith, came out afterwards also. In fact, the golden calf also was connected. And God said, all over history, you will pay for it. Because Jews, unfortunately, still carrying on, was desecrating holiness and sanctity, lack of faith in God. So this is why the zodiacs, and how the zodiac of Cancer, sight, and hearing, in the month of Av, the Jews heard the report So hearing had a great impact on them. They were crying, and this is what happened. So it means, this is the Vilna Gaon says, because these zodiacs had this nature of sight and hearing, this was a stumble in it. Yeah, very interesting. So the Book of Formation Karen Onen said, the sign of this month is lion. Now, as you remember, if you listen to the other lectures of mine, every month has a tribe. So the tribe of Cancer, as we mentioned, was Reuben. By the way, Reuben also came from Riyah. He was called by his mother because of sight, because she said, God saw my poverty. And Shimon is this month, because also Shimon come from hearing. Same thing his mother said, because of hearing. God heard me. It's interesting that even in the names of the tribes, you clear indication to the character of this month. Now, more about Zodiac and months are the letters, the Hebrew letters, as we said. If you remember, we mentioned that the 22 Hebrew letters of the alphabet were divided into three groups. Groups of ordinary letters, then letters which have, we call them dagesh, which have dot in it, yeah? Like you have the bet and the vet. There are 7 letters like this. You have beged, bet gimel dalet, which appears sometimes which is dagesh, with a dot in it, and also kaporet, kaf and taf and pei, and resh also appears in the Bible. With the dots, we have 7 letters, which sometimes come without, which is then it's called like loose expression of the letters, and there is a rough, strong expression, which is a dot. So those 7 were the letter with which the planets were created, means the planets that we see with our eyes, because those are the planets which have great impact on Earth. So we had 12 ordinary letters. They were used for the months, 12 months, 12 letters. Then the 7 letters of the planets, and 3 letters, the first one, Aleph, for the element of air, the middle one, Mem, for the Mayim, for the element of water, and the last one, almost the last one, before the last, Shin, for the fire, for Ash. So comes out that altogether, those 22 letters were used for creation of the elements, of the planets, of the zodiacs. So the letter of this month is Tet, and the previous month was Chet. And the explanation is, as the Aleph was used for air, the Bet, a letter with dot in it, was used for Saturn. Gimal, can be also a dot, was used for Jupiter, and Dalet for Mars. So, what remained for the zodiac, for the zodiacs of the months, 12 months, the letter A. So Nisan is Hay, Ox, Taurus is Vav, Sivan, Geminite. Zayin, Chet, the letter Chet is Cancer, the letter Tet is Leo, where we are now. By the way, it is very interesting that these 2 letters, Chet and Tet, in Hebrew means sin, Chet. In Hebrew you write Chet, Tet, Aleph. The Aleph is paralyzed. We don't pronounce it. You know, because this is a symbol for the soul, which a result of sin is paralyzed. You don't have in Hebrew such phenomena like in French, that you can say R and you write it in 5 or 6 letters. In Hebrew, what you say, you write. It is very often, once or twice, that you have a Hebrew word with a letter which is not pronounced. Now, in this case, Chet, the Aleph is there. Aleph is the loop of God, of the word, with the loop of the word, the Neshama, the soul. And it's paralyzed. If a man sins, it's causing paralysis. It paralyzes his neshama, his soul. So the letter Chet of Cancer and Tet of Tammuz, both together, already in itself shows that these 2 months are very, very bad months, because those are the 2 senses, as we say, sight and hearing, which are the cause of sins. Isn't Lashon Hara, looking on the wrong thing, with the eyes, unfortunately today, you see what is going on. Now, the element of this month is fire, and the planet, maybe not a planet, but all the planets around the sun. This is the sun. So, looking into all this, we see that it's quite a significant month. Now, the letter Chet and Tet are not found within the names of the patriarch Jacob's 12 months. It is very interesting. If you take the name, all of them, Reuben, Shimon, Yehuda, Levi, and so on, you will not find the letter Chet and Tet. Interesting. Why? Because indicating that the soul of the Jew is pure. People are sinning, but basically taking the 12 tribes, they were tzaddikim, they were righteous, and the letter Chetet were not in their name. It's so interesting, as we mentioned. You can see it in English. We have the Book of Formation by Kaplan explanation. But according to the Ari, the weakness of these 2 months is expressed by the 2 letters Daled and Lamed. Now, this is another mystical phenomena for the 12 months, and this is when you take the 4 letters of God's name, which is Ado and Nai, and it means the letters are Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. Each one has 3 letters, like Aleph, Aleph, Lamed, Peh, Dalet, Dalet, Lamed, Tav, Nun, Vav, Nun, and Yud. This is the Hebrew letters. Every letter is not A, B, C, but it is Aleph, it is Bet. So it says the Ari that each month got another letter in these letters of God. It means that Nisan got the Aleph, Taurus the Lamed, Sivan the Pei, Aleph, then the Cancer got the letter Dalet, and the months Ili or Lamed, this is from Dalet, the first 2 letters, and Elul took the time. Dal in Hebrew means poor, weak, So this is also an indication that these months are poor months. It means poor months for Jewish history, for Jewish life. Also, the abbreviation of the names Reuben, Shimon, or Riyah and Shmiah, sight and hearing, also comes to Rash. Rash in Hebrew means also poor. In Hebrew you have Rashim Vedalim, poor. In Hebrew you have quite few names for poverty, because there are different kinds of poverty. So Rash, by the way, represents a very low level of poverty. Dal, less. So these are really poor months for Jewish history. See what happened during these months to Jews all over history. So, looking more into it, as we said, about the tribes of these months, Reuben and Shimon, if you really went through the Old Testament, you could see that most of the troublemakers to Moses were people for the months of Tammuz Reuven, they were the people who joined Korach, in the rebellion against Moses. Then, on the other very unfortunate story with Zimri, the prince of Shimon, was also fighting with Moses, The story took the Midianites, the non-Jewish girl, and, this brought the death of 24,000 Jews. So, the prince of the month of Shimon was with the tribe themselves who followed him, did lots of problems to Moses and brought to great troubles. And the Reuven, so it is so interesting that those who are connected with this one, Reuven and Shimon, were somehow tribes that Satan managed to work with them and bring lots of troubles to Moses. So, seeing